Next up here on the show, if you've got a crawl space on your house, it needs to be encapsulated. If you're not encapsulated, you're just not doing it right, especially on an older home. So much stuff comes up from underneath the earth into your home. Cold air, humidity in the summer, cold air in the winter. This creates both a thermal and a moisture barrier to protect the rest of your home, and it just makes sense. Some people wind up with a house they consider sort of a sick house from all these problems, and this could take care of it. Ox Foundation Solutions, in addition to being the pros at almost everything else in the foundation world, in fact, everything else, they do it all. House leveling, cracks, shifts, water intrusion, water removal, mold removal, all that stuff. But encapsulation is a big deal. So consider it. And if you do have a foundation problem, there's just not a better company around to handle it than oxstrong.com. Ox Foundation Solutions. Reach out to them and get them to your house at oxstrong.com. Trump's still taking questions. Let me tee this up for the second hour crowd that just jumped in here. He's at a round table about business, being peppered with tons of questions. One of the bigger stories of the day is the United States government, I'm presuming through the United States Navy, has just seized a gigantic Venezuelan oil tanker. Okay, now what next? Trump is hinting around that there be other actions today and that there may be some other news conferences about it. He even said a second ago he thought we would keep the oil. I think we got to hold the oil and give it back to the people of Venezuela if Maduro leaves. But we're doing what appears to be some kind of naval blockade on their oil shipments, and that could affect the world. It did spike the prices just a little bit. Any disruption of the oil supply chain, whether it be a hurricane, a war, something unnatural, it will always affect pricing. So that's been a pretty big headline today, and he's spoken to it a couple of times. Let's go back live and see what else he talks about before they wrap this up. Y'all hang in there.
I'll probably have to, do what I want to do, but I hope he's running now, as you know, and she's running. We have two very talented people. Either one should win against the Democrats.
Mr. President, legacy story lately focuses on one of your cabinet members predicting that you're going to fire this one or you're going to get rid of that one. Of all your cabinet members, who would you perceive as the most under attack?
Well, I think my cabinet's fantastic. I read these same stories that I'm unhappy with this one or that one, and I'm not. I think the cabinet's done a great job. I read a story that I was unhappy with Pete because he was attacking drug dealers. And I said, that's not exactly right. I would say very much the opposite. Pete Hegseth has been phenomenal. I read a story recently, I'm unhappy with Christie. I'm so happy with it. I mean, we have a closed border. We have a border that's the best border in the history of our country. Why would I be unhappy? She's fantastic, actually. No, we have a fantastic cabinet, a really fantastic cabinet. I mean, Lutnick I'll have to think about. No, can't have everything. Can't have everything. He's doing great. Well, Howard's done really well, and Scott's done really well. We have just a fantastic cabinet. I'll tell you who's doing a great job is Linda McMahon. We're bringing education back to the states where it belongs. Education is going, we can't do any worse than we're doing right now. Let the states run it. If you go back to some of our states that are run so well, so good, I would say 40 of them. And then you'll have trouble with 5, and you'll have bigger trouble with another 5. But you have 35 or 40 states that will run education as good as Norway or Denmark, Sweden. We have some, the heads of the list are Denmark, Norway, Sweden, a few others. I think if you go to Iowa and you go to Indiana and you go to, I can name a lot of states, I think it would be almost the equivalent to, maybe better. But you can't run a school system in Iowa from Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Sir, the Gaza plan, when do you expect to announce members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that?
Well, we'll do it early next year. And the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President.
They all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be, they want to be on the heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers. They all want to be on the board of this.
Mr. President,
On the video follow-up to last night's rally, can you clarify, you have called the affordability crisis as a Democratic hoax, but you also want to make America affordable again?
No, the word that they use is a hoax, and because they're the ones that caused the problem. I'm talking about when you're trying to say it a different way. It's pretty simple, though, if you listen. It's a hoax where they created the problem. They're the ones that gave the high prices. So when they use the word affordability, they shouldn't be using that word because they're the ones that created this problem. They created the highest inflation in history, and they created the highest prices in history. And now we have to get those things down. But when they go, they look and they say affordability. They never discuss it. They just say the election's about affordability. Well, it may very well be. I think it's also about still the border. You have to remember the job. The sad thing is, for 7 months, we've had no people come through our border. Nobody can even believe it. 0 people. And the people that do that are largely Democrats, which the people that do the stats. We've had no people come in, other than coming in legally. But if you take a look, and nobody wants to talk about that. In fact, last night I said, let me talk about the border. My own people told me, sir, nobody cares about the border anymore. You've fixed the problem. I said, do I get a little credit for fixing a disaster where millions of people a month would flow into our country, and from prisons and from gangs and from drug dealers and mental institutions? They say, sir, you fixed the border. Nobody cares. I say, but I care. It's sad when you fix something and then you can't even use it. You can't talk about it. My own people don't want to talk about it anymore. But very simply, the Democrats created the worst crisis of inflation that this country's ever had. And with that came the highest prices that we've ever had. And I'm fixing it.
Mr. President, has Secretary Hegseth told you why he hasn't released the video of the second strike?
No, he hasn't told me. I thought that issue was dead. You're surprised you're bringing it up. You must be CNN.
Lawmakers are still
Are you
talking about it
CNN?
on the Hill.
Are you CNN?
I am with CNN.
Oh, gee, I'm shocked to find out.
But lawmakers are still talking about it on the Hill.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know about lawmakers. Which lawmakers you're talking about?
Most of the Democrats have been talking about trying to release
I
it.
mean, the people that you work for, the Democrats? You know you work for the Democrats, don't you? You're basically an arm of the Democrat Party. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It looks like he's wrapping it up with a nice pimp slap to a CNN reporter. That's always amusing. I'm going to miss this guy when we just go back to dry old news conferences where people take the mainstream journalist in the room seriously. Okay, so, man, did they cover a lot of territory. Back to the Venezuelan tanker. Trump also said this. I was reading through some of the quotes from the news conference. We weren't able to get the whole thing in there. But Trump also said that there will be photographs of the tanker released soon, and we will know why it was seized. You think they're putting drugs on the tankers? You think they're putting whatever the drug of the day is, fentanyl, on the tankers with the oil? I mean, that'd be if the country is, as a government, participating in the smuggling, and we're blowing up the tiny boats, it would be a pretty smart thing to do. Those things are massive. We'd have to have some I'm just guessing. I'm guessing, totally guessing. We'd have to have some intelligence that that's what the operation was about. And if we seized the tanker in order to seize the drugs, that's a huge story. And then the question would be, why didn't we blow the tanker up? Trump's like, well, because we need the oil. This is going to get good. We may have an update on it this afternoon. I'm fascinated with this story. It's not something we do a lot. We've done oil embargoes and blockades in the past, but for us to seize the tanker like we're a bunch of Somali pirates is something else.
I'm the captain.
Look at me. I am the captain now. That was a chilling scene. That was a good movie. All right. Crocker Moving Services. Let's do the break real quick. I'll come back and reset. We got some other things to throw on the table today, too. Turned into a busy news day. It was kind of slow till now. Man, Eric Crocker served his country in the United States Marine Corps honorably, came out. He says all the time, I've only ever been two things, a Marine and a mover. So he went into the moving business, started his company, and it just turns out that the discipline and the leadership skills and the logistics skills and the ethics of being a United States Marine really play well into owning a moving company. You want to take care, you got to lead people. You're leading usually good, strong men. You've got to be on time. You've got to treat people's stuff with care. You got to do it efficiently so you're not running the bill up. There's a lot that goes into it. You even have to schedule your operation so you can keep your crews busy but still be able to scale down. And they do that. It's one of their specialties at Crocker. They can scale down to a minimum of 2 hours. And that gives us a lot of options to be able to get different projects done where we don't need maybe a full day's move and we don't want to pay for that. But they can come out and do a 2-hour deal, get something big and heavy done for you, and then they're on to the next client. It's a wonderful company. Such great feedback. People appreciate how they're treated. And Eric has said from the very beginning when I met him that I would not hire somebody and send them to your house if I wouldn't have them in my house. So he really does do good screening on his crews, and they're just good, hardworking folks. CrockerMovingServices.com. It was good to see him Friday night at our station event as well. CrockerMovingServices.com. All right, it's 3:20. The day gets more interesting and more interesting as we go along. Birmingham Broker bringing you the show tonight, bhambroker.com, bhambroker.com. Y'all get in here and let's talk. If you've got a vehicle to unload, either now or in the new year, that means you need to sell it, you need to trade it, or it needs to be gone for some other reason, whatever. Let Birmingham broker that thing out into the world and get it sold. This is their profession. They're better at it than we are. They just are. They know value. And they've got their own systems for negotiating and matching up with sellers and even marketing. They're not just blindly marketing it. They're very targeted in how they find you someone to buy that ride. And you get more money in the process. You get a retail check, a whole lot better than trading it in wholesale. And then even minus their consignment fee, they generally do, I don't know, many cases or any cases where somebody individually can do a better job than they do as far as netting you some money on that ride. They're just good. I'll never trade another way again. Every time I get ready to unload one, I'm going to unload one. Y'all, it is Birmingham Broker, bhambroker.com, bhambroker.com. AJ, I was about to go to some heavy stuff on Obamacare and all this other stuff that's in the headlines today, but I think I might have had a porch pirate at my house.
Uh-oh.
I had a motion detector go off. And I just watched a dude drive up. I have a setup where I've got a secure box to drop parcels because I live on a rural property and it's a long way up to the house. And it's easier for some of the delivery people to get in and out that way. And so I saw a dude pull up. He's not in a delivery kind of vehicle. He's in a big old jacked up redneck kind of lifted truck. And he pulls up and he gets out. He's got nothing in his hands. And then the camera catches him getting back into the truck with something in his hands. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
So you son of a bitch, I got you because you're on camera and I'm sending it to the sheriff's department. Well, it may not be anything. It could be. Sometimes people will pull in my driveway by mistake and don't realize where they are. And then I go, oh, sorry, man. One guy got out one day. You ever see weird stuff on your cameras?
Mm-hmm.
One guy got out one day and just got out of the car, walked up to the gate. There's a gate. And he just rattled it like he was in prison. Like, let me out, man. And then he just got back in his car. Like, where did he think he was? I didn't know who this guy was.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
I mean, obviously he should have known that wasn't his spot, or he didn't know who lived there.
Yeah, I don't know. He it's like the gate confused him. He was like, well, what has happened?
Right. Where did this gate come from?
It's like, dude, get out of my driveway. You're lucky you ain't dead right now. I got a gun. Lots of them. Lots of cameras.
You should have like a random voice of God just echoing out the truth. Hey,
Yeah.
who is that? Who are you?
Anyway, it may not be anything. I just happened to notice it during the break. Thought it would give me some show content. Okay, let's get back to the heavy stuff. Obamacare is one of the next big policy fights we're going to have in the country. And it is shaping up beautifully. And the Republicans are in a weird situation where the thing is dying on its own, right? It's a dysfunctional plan. It's been that way since they created it. It was just this big old wish list from the left that they control our lives by controlling our access to health care. They pretended it was for poor people or it was going to make things affordable. So they named it the Affordable Health Care. The Affordable Health Care Plan. And it was anything but. It's just like Biden had the Inflation Reduction Act. When inflation went to 9.5%, we're still dealing with it. These people are liars. And so now the thing has gone tits up. It started in about 2019. It only took it 6 years to start dying. Skyrocketed premiums and rates all over the country, even for private sector payers who in a lot of ways are paying for Obamacare, even if you're not on it. You're helping subsidize it. So the Democrats had control, so they wrote themselves a check to keep this stupid thing going. Now, for their part, the Republicans failed to repeal it. They could have saved us a lot of misery by having the courage to repeal it back when Trump first got elected. And John McCain notoriously was one of the last votes to say no. So they failed to repeal and replace. And now they're in a position where the Republicans don't have to repeal it. It's dead. And that's what the Democrat shutdown was about. They wanted to leverage a shutdown against what they believe were their weak-willed opponents, that they would cave and subsidize Obamacare and try to get past it like we always do. This is why the government's broke. And they didn't do it. They failed at that. Now they got no leverage, and the thing's dying, and they're still trying to get a 3-year extension of the subsidies that are keeping Obamacare alive. So they're trying to pivot to the Republicans are mean and they're going to hurt people and raise health care costs. The Republicans are saying, no, we have a plan. We're going to replace Obamacare with a better plan. And I think it's going to be time pretty soon that plan get unveiled. Now, some of it's still being negotiated. Trump hinted around like he's actually in negotiations with some Democrats to come on board. He's going to need, if he could get 6 or 7 Democrats to come on board and hold his Republicans, they'd have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate and get the House to stay intact. They could actually pass something formidable that could change this whole equation for Americans. What Obamacare wound up being was a couple of things, and now we're finding out about a lot of corruption and wasted spending in the account. It was a gigantic blank check for insurance companies. It wasn't really helping poor people or people have better care. The quality didn't go up. The prices went up. Access slowed to a lot of people. Because if you can't, I heard a guy explain it today this way, and it makes more sense than anything. If you got a $6,000 deductible, which that's one of the things that has trapped people to even get on employer plans with massive deductibles, and you wind up and you need an MRI or something and your out-of-pocket costs are so high, you're basically paying cash for an MRI at that point. And you're paying a higher rate than if you just went into an MRI place and scheduled one and paid for it yourself. So you're coming out of pocket, but if you do that yourself, then you don't get credit for your deductible. So you're in this catch-22 where you got to pay out of pocket for a huge amount of money. So people are skipping some of these treatments that they need or diagnostic things that they need because they just can't afford it with everything else that's skyrocketed. The way they jacked up, again, inflation, energy cost, all the stuff that was done to us in the last administration, just in the last 4 or 5 years. So we're still crawling back from that stuff. Now Obamacare is dying, and Republicans are going to have to step up and do the right thing and replace it. The president's concept is a direct-to-consumer plan where the actual insured patients get the funding to buy policies and plans out there in the private market instead of running it through this government thing that was always going to be a place for corruption and waste. How do we know this? Senator Thune just came out today with another GAO report, and don't wreck the car when I put these numbers out, but 90% of the fake accounts that were set up to receive Obamacare subsidies were approved. This is Minnesota magnified. The estimate on how much money went to non-existent patients and people is $21 billion, and there were no checks. They just, if you applied for it, you got it. So that means probably a bunch of foreigners and illegals and others that came in, legal foreigners and illegal foreigners, non-American citizens piling into our health care. Hell, no wonder the cost went up. I saw a statistic today that 60% of the rental pressure on the rental market is coming from people in this country that are not our citizens. That surged in, 6 million people were added to the demand load for rental housing, and that sent the rent rates up. Supply and demand, we talked about it yesterday. The consequences of what they did are all over the place. So we're going to continue to follow it. The fraud that's being exposed in Obamacare should be enough for people to do it in. The Democrats don't care about any of that. They just want their money. They want their program to survive, and they want their money. And they don't have an argument to make. In other words, they can't go at the Republicans and say, whatever your plan is, it's worse than ours. Nothing is worse than this. Nothing is going to make our healthcare system worse than what we're already living through. Anything the Republicans come up with will be better than this. Anything. Even just killing it and letting us sweat it out here on our own would be better than this mess. For the whole country anyway. Back here in a minute, Leland Live. All right, y'all, Southern Skies Dermatology bringing you the show tonight. Y'all go get checked. You may not, I know it's a busy time and some people don't have time for a lot of these extra things, but as we look toward the new year, as we get ready to do all the things we do in the new year, we all have good intentions. What's that old phrase? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. We all try, don't we? Well, put this on your list of things to improve your life, to your health. Some people are giving up, doing some dieting, doing some exercise, trying to get maybe your money under control, giving up alcohol, all the things we do to try to improve ourselves, doing a little more Bible study time. You got a list, AJ? Have you started anything? I do it too. I'm trying to get a jump on it, so I'm not jumping in there with the amateurs.
Yeah.
But do the checkups. And skin cancer is not something that we think a lot about. You probably glaze over when I start talking about it every day, but it really is everywhere. And if you talk to enough people in your life and in your family, you're going to know somebody that's had some form of it. And me, of course, I've had family members for the last 40 years with different versions. My mom has struggled with melanoma and is doing so well. So glad that she's doing so well this Christmas again, and we get to hang out with her at Christmas time. And you don't want the internal fight with melanoma. You want to discover it early while it's on the surface and remove it, and that's exactly what they do day in and day out at Southern Skies. In fact, this is all they do is skin cancer. They've dedicated their practice for years. Dr. Mario actually took over a few years ago, but the original founders wanted this practice just to be about finding and helping people with skin cancer. And so that makes them the experts with the latest technology to get all of these things done for you. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com, SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Man, what a weird news day. I'm obsessed with this Venezuelan tanker story. I get that way sometimes, and I'll continue to follow that, even though we got other stuff to talk about today. Because we have seized a massive, and I don't know how much fuel is on those tankers anymore. I used to have some statistics like that in my mind. There, have you ever seen one up close, like at a port?
There's a massive.
That you don't see them that much. Sometimes you'll see them out in the open sea. If you're down around Mobile, sometimes you'll see some that are. I think those are LNG tankers, and I don't think those are quite as big. But these super tankers that travel the world with all that crude, I believe, and Trump said it was a very large tanker, and we've just picked it up off the Venezuelan coast. And the intrigue is, well, why did we do it? The what, when, and where. The reporters asked the president, well, what are we going to do with it? Where's the tanker now? And Trump gave it some flip answer like, well, look, you can track it, or there'll be more on that later. But he also hinted around like, he said, we'll be releasing pictures and you'll see why we seized it. So my first inclination was we seized an oil tanker. Well, this is part of some economic embargo, or we're trapping their oil business in Venezuela, and that would put more pressure on Maduro. But we haven't declared anything. Trump's not given an order. That doesn't fit well in the narco-terrorism thing, unless we're going to stretch and say, well, the whole government's involved in the narco-terrorism, so any of their assets are subject to seizure, and then we decide to seize a tanker under the guise of the narco-terrorism declaration. Well, Trump didn't say that today. But then he hinted around that there was something else about that boat that forced us to seize it. So this may not be, again, I'm thinking out loud because we're waiting on to see if there are going to be other developments. This may not be the reason they did it. It may not be just an oil blockade or to interdict their oil business. It could be a combination of things, but it could be that they were using those tankers to move some of those drugs as well. And we seized this as part of our ongoing operations to stop the drug shipments into the country. A lot of the folks that understand the international drug trade understand that Venezuela has basically become a clearinghouse in some ways, almost a bank for the drug cartels, and not just the ones in their country. They're laundering and funneling money and product for cartels all over Central America, and they're helping out some of the cartels in Mexico. So, and then that money itself has made its way into the global money supply system. It's made its way into legitimate businesses. There are a lot of people that are globalist by nature that don't really have America's interest at heart, that are in American business to give a lot of money to politicians, and they're freaking out right now about the possible collapse in Venezuela. And so I guess what I'm saying is all the right people are concerned right now, and this is a good thing. So, yeah, the Venezuelan oil tanker seizure taking over a lot of the headlines this afternoon. Trump is being unusually cryptic about it, too. And the only thing he hinted at was he said, you'll see there'll be more action later. Little footnote in my mind. And that they would be putting some information. Well, here's the soundbite. Let me send this over there to you, AJ, and you can just hear him say it himself. He had this big roundtable a little while ago, so we were trying to listen in and catch as much as this of this as we could live. But he basically, and when being asked where is it, where did it go, what's going on with it, just sort of teased that there'd be more later, and that we would understand why they did the seizure. It's not easy to do, I would imagine, even though we've all seen the pirate movies from Somalia. So, AJ, just give me a thumbs up when you got that ready. And look, we've got time to go to the phones on this or anything else. A lot of big picture, sort of deep issues on the show today, sort of broad discussion points as well as we troll along this afternoon. While he's getting that queued up, and I just want you to hear from the president himself, Michelson Laser Vision bringing you the show tonight. That's where I got LASIK a little over 6 years ago. And y'all, it really has been a miracle in my life of improving my vision, making me 2015 and able to see like I do all the time, day or night. It's really, really, it's nice to see with your natural eyes. Some of you think you're okay because you got glasses or contacts, and I'm going to tell you, you sort of get beaten down by that and start to assume that's sort of your normal. And there's a whole nother world out there. There's a free world that can see like I see. And with the miracle of LASIK, which was 6 years ago, it was cutting edge technology, and they've even improved it. They got the newest generation of laser right now online at Michelson. They've had it for a couple of years. It's called the Contura system. And it might just be able to fix things that in the past you've been turned away for. Sometimes people are turned away because of previous surgeries, left scar tissue or astigmatism issues, or have things that couldn't be treated. This thing is so precision with the way the laser maps out your cornea and figures out where all the imperfections are. It can perfect things that the old doctors might have not been able to do. So look into it and get your consult. That's what it takes. They're not going to press you at all or put a sales pitch on you. They'll teach you everything you need to know about the positives and the negatives. It is a surgery, so there's going to be some risk involved. Talk to them about that. And if you're as confident as me, it could absolutely change your life. It is Michelson Laser Vision, the premier, original, legendary practice. Dr. Mark and Dr. Jennifer, his daughter, 2 generations of Michelson's taking care of people down there at UAB Highlands, MichelsonLaserVision.com. All right, we got Trump talking about the tanker. Let's listen to this real quick. That was peculiar too. Trump saying we're just going to keep the oil. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we can legally just keep the oil. And if you want to look at it in pure standards, that oil belongs to the Venezuelan people, not Maduro's government. Maybe there was some there were some private sector companies involved, but it's a seizure, and if connected to the drug trade, then maybe the seizure laws do allow those assets to be kept. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. And I'm hoping it plays out this afternoon with another news conference, probably DOD or maybe even the Secretary of State to tell us exactly what's going on with this big old story. No details on the tanker itself, too. I was waiting on some of these. You know, there are these tracker apps online where you can track international boats. I actually had a shipment coming from Asia a while back, and I was able to track that cargo ship all the way through the Panama Canal and to Houston, Texas, and it's pretty amazing technology. The oil tankers are on there. Some private craft are on there. It's pretty fascinating. Just like the airline flight trackers, these things are out there online. So as soon as there's an identity, I would imagine people are going to start posting this stuff, and we'll know a little bit more about the boat itself. And but apparently it was flagged to Venezuela, and that's been the only thing we've been able to find out yet today. All right, quick break. We'll come back in a minute. 545-9950 if you want to jump on the show. Lots of stuff to dig into today, but we can throw some new stuff in too if you have it. Again, 545-9950, Leland Live Talk 99.5. All right, y'all. Danny Knowles is with the Knowles Group, the KnowlesGroup.com. Man, the markets really like the rate cut today, and I thought they had already priced a lot of that in. So right after that announcement today, that quarter point cut, the Dow jumped 500 points. 500 points isn't what 500 points used to be because the market is so high right now. That's only about a percentage, but still a green day on the Dow and the NASDAQ and some of the other stocks. I've been tracking a few key stocks sometimes because of headlines in the news. One of them is Netflix is in the dumper right now after that big, gigantic offer they've made to Warner Brothers. The same thing started happening to Paramount after they made the offer. It sounds counterintuitive. There's about to be a big mega merger. These companies are in a bidding war. But a lot of street investors believe that the bidding war has gotten out of hand. It's an ego contest now. They're overpricing the Warner Brothers assets by billions of dollars, and they're about to dig a hole for themselves. And that has happened. So there's some skittishness about this whole deal and whether or not they can pull it off. And the Netflix stock, since about the 5th of the month, has tanked, it looks like about 20, maybe 17%. Big deal. So there's that. Danny Knowles looks at the long term, though, the big picture, not just the daily trends. And he can help you out in your planning, in your retirement planning. There's a lot of questions about that, too. And I'm absolutely no expert. I look at this stuff every day. But they understand those long-term trends and the algorithms and the formulas to keep your money steady and manage it as you go and keep it on that positive track. You go back and look at a 10-year view of the markets, and they've steadily gone up. There are dips and valleys and peaks, but they steadily go up. And you look at that trend line, and that's where you want to be in 10 years, 15 years, next year, whatever you've got in mind. Maybe you're already retired, and you think maybe you could get a better return with some better placement, better attention, personal attention from a guy I know that's going to treat you right. It's Danny Knowles. We've known each other our whole lives. He's a good man. It's the KnowlesGroup.com, N-O-L-E-S, the KnowlesGroup.com. All right, let's grab some phone calls. I told you all to call, so let's do it. Valerie is up next on a cell phone. What's up, Valerie? Mm. Look, I can understand our government being accommodating. I try to have an open mind on some of this stuff. There are a lot of people that are legally here, and it's nice when I travel that there's some English options available. But I saw a Vietnamese guy the other day talking about our people don't come here and no, this guy was Korean. He said our people don't come here and demand you speak to me in Korean. This was after the mayor of Minneapolis spoke in Somali. I guess they speak Somali there. And he did so to pander to that community that he's afraid of that's also ripped his city off. And so we've done this for years. The debate used to be over our driver's licenses, and there were court cases that tested it. And here's a situation where if you can't read the English signs, you can't navigate on the roads. And so I think Alabama, I could be wrong about the number, but I think we were giving our license exam in, I think it was 56 languages at one time because of some federal money tied to it or whatever. So in that case, I'd say no. In the case of some of these services, okay, Spanish is pretty ubiquitous, and you could probably throw a few more in. But I can't imagine there's 17 languages that are that important that we have to make that accommodation. Oh, really? From yeah. No, you're 100% right. They're featured in the Clint Eastwood movie Gran Torino, where he's very bigoted against his neighbors. He thinks, you remember he was a Vietnam vet, and he thinks they're all but then he gets to know them, and it's a really endearing movie. I think it's one of Clint Eastwood's best movies. But you're exactly right. I saw a debate today where somebody was accusing Trump of being bigoted or racist toward third world countries because of the way he refers to them. But the ugly truth that people should embrace, and it's what our country always did with immigration policy, is not everybody's equal. Not everybody comes here that's a benefit to this country. We have an obligation to the citizens that are here, black, white, all of us, brown, to not allow anybody in here that's not going to add to our experience. You've got to come here and be resourceful. It used to be a requirement. It's even in our legal documents. You cannot be a charge to the government, which means you can't come here and get on welfare. You've got to come here with resources. You got to have a job, a family, someplace to go, some reason to be here so you're self-sustaining. No rational country lets people in any other circumstance. And so, but what we did was blow the doors open, and now you've seen billions of dollars get ripped off and sent from all of our programs, from housing and hey, thanks for your call, Valerie. That's a good point. I got on a tear and just kept talking. Didn't let Valerie say anything else. Listen, I was looking at something today. Their presence here, because they're not coming and adding any value to this country. It's just true. It sounds mean, and maybe it is, but it's a fact. If you're coming here and you're getting on public assistance, because now if you're a refugee from war, some big calamity has happened, there are exceptions we've always made. We try to help you out. Charities can usually assume that. But we were funneling NGO money right out of the taxpayers to get them here. We paid for their transportation to get here. Then they get here. They've now crowded out housing, both private and public housing. That cuts down on the supply for Americans that need this housing, whether it's, again, public housing or you're just trying to pay the rent. They have crashed into Obamacare. We're seeing money that was ripped off there where we added to the patient load because anybody that signed up, even if you weren't even a real person, was able to take money out of that system. You cannot have an open border and a welfare state. Milton Friedman, the famous economist, told us that repeatedly all through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Those are just economic facts. There is no blank check. We're not that wealthy. Our country is $38 trillion in debt at last count. It's probably higher by now. We're borrowing money just to pay for the things that are in our government now. We're going broke. So you bring this load in here. Not only is it expensive, it's wasteful, and then it goes out the window, and it creates there's less stuff available for the people that are supposed to be the citizens of this country. The food shortage, the food prices were impacted by this influx of millions of people. The housing prices, public transportation, our jails got filled up, our crime rolls are filled up. And listen to this one, I hadn't even considered this one. Test scores in our schools. We've seen these plummets over the last few years, and some people tried to ascribe that to the COVID shock when kids had to get sent home and had to homeschool and all that those kids had been set back and it would take them a while to catch up. And I'm sure that's part of it. But the other part of it was we dumped non-English speaking kids who come from backgrounds of either no education or poor education into our already stressed and poor educational system. And our test scores started crashing against other nations. So you just import the third world and you become the third world. And we started doing it. So the American kids trying to sit there in the back of the class. And it's one thing that they've got to deal with in some cases in certain school systems, an incompetent teacher or a burnout teacher and a bunch of other losers in their class whose parents don't give a damn about them and just send them to the schools to be warehoused. You got some kid in the back, this may be their only shot in life is getting a decent education. And then you dump a bunch of non-English speaking into the classroom and the schools have to accommodate it. So it is expensive, it crowded the classrooms, and it crashed the test scores. So they statistically went and reverse engineered the test score drop in the system, took the illegals out. Guess what you find? The test scores go back up. We're more competitive than we're showing the world right now, but we have dumped people into the system that need remedial education. We've dumped these kids, and I feel sorry for the kids, but we need a system to deal with it. And when you take that much too fast, that quickly into any country, you're going to hurt the system. You have to do it in measured ways. You have to let people in batches. It has to be controlled. That population has to distribute around the country so there's not too much load in one place or another. It's cool when we get immigration and people are self-sufficient, like the Hmongs that she just talked about. Those people have pride. They're from a civilized nation, an impoverished nation, and they still do better when they get here. They learn how to adapt to us. They don't come in here waving their flag and demanding we become them, like we see, particularly in Minnesota, where they've changed the damn state flag to accommodate these people. And so it's wrong. Everything about it is wrong. If you're going to come here, you adapt. I know, again, on my own personal experience, when you travel, even when you travel and you go to other countries, you're expected to kind of learn their ways, do things, understand how they do things, and not be obnoxious. Americans get a reputation for being that way when Americans travel. I actually read a book, it's propaganda back when I was a kid, called The Ugly American. It was how the rest of the world sees us sometimes because of our arrogance and the way we throw our weight around when we go in the world. Well, that's no different for people that arrive here and have their hands out and start demanding free stuff. You know what they're going to get? They're going to get a ride home. I've got a story today, and I love this story. The Department of Homeland Security has just signed a $140 million deal to buy a fleet of 737s so that they can ramp up the deportation flights. Hallelujah. Deportation Airlines. It's probably still nicer than Spirit. You get on there and go home. Deportation Air. We will fly your ass home.
Yeah. It may not be your home, but you're going to get the hell out of here.
You ain't. This ain't your country, Hoss. We're not sending you to Auschwitz. We're not putting you in prison. Just getting you somewhere else. Good luck.
Right. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here.
Go find another country that'll put up with you. And some of these people are great folks will be eligible to come back if they were to do it right. Right now, they have a chance. It's up to them to show some decency and go home. And when you go home, you're not deported, then you have a chance to apply to come back. You come right back to that job you're doing, to the people you've met, to the community you're starting to work on. But you got to do it the right way. No country in the world lets mass immigration happen anywhere. Not a modern country. And the third world countries are so bad, nobody wants to go there anyway. Oh, man, I could keep going, and I have for years. Deportation Airlines. They should give it a name. They should brand it. Trump's all about branding. They should have a logo, create a whole airline to send people home.